Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing a classic Roger Dubuis Hommage 40 by Retrograde Chronograph. You can see this handsome bi-retrograde day-date chronograph in white gold on our website. Purchase it there, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this timepiece with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Dubuis Hommage 40 by Retrograde day-date chronograph. Now, the watch on my wrist represents the early sensibility of the Dubuis manufacturer, back when the company was paying, yes, homage to the traditions of Geneva watchmaking, especially complicated watchmaking, and the career of Dubuis himself. If the target sensibility of modern Dubuis is Richard Mille, albeit from Geneva, then the target sensibility of the original Dubuis manufacturer was Patek Philippe, only more fun. And this watch definitely embodies that notion. On my wrist, it's easy to wear. White gold gives it heft, as does a full deployant clasp, but it's not excessively thick. As you can see, 12.8 millimeters with a generously sloped concave bezel that pairs both the visual mass and helps a dress cuff to slide up and over. 40 millimeters from 9 to 3, not inclusive of chronograph pushers or crown, and from lug to lug, a very manageable 47.3 millimeters, and it's that last dimension that leads me to suggest this watch would be appropriate on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference, provided your wrist is more oval than round. Now, again, it does have that heft to it because it's not excessively thin. It's handsome, nicely proportioned, but because there is a little bit of depth to the case and span to the lugs, you have that sensation of a premium pull of a massive, expensive, upscale watch. And a lot of folks simply don't like ceramic, titanium, aluminum, composites. They want that traditional hefty luxury watch feel, and this watch has that in spades. The strap is substantial. As you can see, it's bolstered as it approaches the lugs. It actually has a slightly sheer cut flank with a monotone stitch. It is a very light brown, medium rectangular scale alligator leather. It's softer than you might suggest for something this thin. It's wonderfully supple as it thins out, but as it approaches the lugs, it swells and gains a little bit of rigidity. So it's a little bit of a contradiction. It's physically substantial, but it's soft against the skin, and I like that. That's the best of both worlds. In terms of the clasp itself, it's remarkably generous. Now, it's a white gold, fully finished, single-fold deployant. It reminds me of nothing so much as Patek Philippe, right down to the filigree style of the company marquee right on there. Now, it provides a little bit of a counterweighting to the watch head itself, so if you like to wear your watch loose, having that big buckle on the bottom helps to prevent porpoising or movement on the wrist. The case is simple but well studied. You can see the finest traditions of Geneva watchmaking in the blended profile of the lugs, which merge seamlessly into the arc of the case. The contrasts between polished and satin finished elements breaking up the substantial metal carapace. Once again, there's that gorgeous concave bezel that slims the watch aesthetically, and it all gives way to a dial that is simply sensational. I'm going to try to see if I can get a little closer right here and then try to improve the focus and maybe brighten the image up a little. That's probably for the best right there. Now, the dial has a slight off-white lacquer coloration to it, and I'm actually divided here. Now, in the early days, Roger Dubuis did use enamel dials, and in the early 2000s, it actually took that technique in-house, and I've examined this dial to exhaustion, and what I can see is that there's a squared-off separation between the plane of the dial and the countersunk registers for the counters at 9 and 3. You will not see that squared-off transition on a lacquered dial, so though it has a creamy lacquered appearance to it, I do believe that this is true enamel, and while I think the individual characters are painted on or transferred, I do believe that the base itself is a vitreous fired enamel. Outboard, there's a tachymeter scale, colorful and stylized Arabic numerals, and then the twin scales for the bi-retrograde chronograph system. It's a busy but balanced dial, as it has gorgeous cruciform symmetry, so you can cut it down the middle, you can cut it through the middle, and it will be nicely balanced. So a lot going on, but fairly easy to read. You can see that the beautiful blued and skeletonized foyer leaf style hands for the retrograde dials are a nice touch. Now I'm going to reset the chronograph right there and show you how the bi-retrograde calendar system works, because it's part of the fun of this watch. Complication, well, for its own sake, because gee whiz, that's neat. And you can see how it transitions perfectly at midnight. Aesthetically and mechanically, superb. Now, it's also superb to actuate the chronograph, because this is a column wheel based on the Lemania 2310 Bausch. So the 2310 formed the basis for the original Omega 321 that went to the moon, and it also formed the basis for the Patek Philippe CH2770 and, among others, the 5070 chronograph. So you have that same basic movement finished by Roger Dubuis to Geneva seal standards, and you can actually see the Geneva hallmark just under my finger on the balance cock. You'll note as I turn the watch toward the camera just how many screws and surfaces are black polished, because they turn absolutely black when I'm squared up to the camera. You can also see from this angle everything that's lighting up and gleaming is mirror polished. The edges of levers, of cocks and bridges, of jewel countersinks, all mirrored and rounded with traditional hand-laid anglage. No machined angles there. All of that is done by hand. You'll also note that some of the traditions of Geneva watchmaking are alive and well, including the double-screwed stud holder and the capped column wheel. Now I'm going to show you why you would prefer a column wheel lateral clutch chronograph over a column wheel vertical clutch. Forget the efficiency of the vertical clutch. I want to see everything. I want to see the lateral clutch moving into engagement and out of engagement with the chronograph center wheel. I want to see the hammers of the chronograph falling to reset the indicators. I want to see the interaction of the horns and levers with the column wheel, and I want to see that huge, beautiful beating balance, so I want the whole thing to be manually wound. 48-hour power reserve. The balance features a black polished swan's neck, and 18,000 vibrations per hour means you can hear it chugging away, you can see it chugging away, and if you get real close, you'll note that huge balance, which is almost 1/3 the diameter of the entire movement, is borne on a Breguet overcoil, so you have concentric beating with any orientation with respect to gravity. That is better timekeeping with a concentric beating and center of gravity about the spring itself. So you have that refinement, you have the standard of finish, you have screw heads that are black polished with chamfered slots, their circumferences beveled. Everything about this is superb. It's the standard of Patek, but you have a watch that looks like this. Again, it's Patek with a sense of humor, with a little bit of a sense of irony about it, and a self-awareness that I absolutely dig. It's postmodernism at its best. Handsome, fun, and now highly collectible. These early Dubuis watches are gaining a lot of momentum on the market. In their day, they were watches who would bought by collectors who also owned Vacheron and also owned Patek and also owned Audemars Piguet. And these days, that's exactly the kind of collector who's getting back into the Dubuis brand. Not the modern Dubuis brand, but the 1995 to about 2004 watches. And this watch is your ticket to the show. See it and own it on our website.